I'm not paying the gavel, but we're going to call this meeting to order. Thank you all for being here this evening. We're going to give a public comment. I don't have anybody signed up. Is there anybody that wishes to speak? All right, seeing none. Moving on to updates from council. Already updates? No updates? All right, thank you. Moving on to the consent agenda. Any questions, comments, concerns related to any item on the consent agenda? So I'm glad to see Bowles back for another summer. That's a good arrangement.
Yeah, and it's at the same rate, Mayor, for 5 months.
Good. All right, anything more on the consent agenda?
And just the appointment of Susan Hefner, just with Candy being out for an extended period of time, we thought we should do that, and she'll get sworn after the fact, but just gives her all those tools for collections.
Understood. And we thank Susan for being willing to do that.
Yes, stepped up well.
All right, moving on to our discussion items. Number 6, the selection of a candidate to fill an at-large vacancy on the planning board. So this week we have some candidates here. We'll give everybody a chance to introduce themselves and for council to ask questions. And then next week we'll make an appointment. So if y'all want to come back next week, we'll do the appointment. Council has a ballot. You all have a ballot. Well, Jim, jump in here. You'll write your name on the ballot, write who your preferred candidate is, and then we'll do that next week. So,
Mayor, and I'm sorry to interrupt, I had in my notes here and I missed
sure.
it. We have one other consent item to add, and we'll send out the information.
okay.
So with the fire departments, most of the appropriation that's set aside from the tax levy for the fire district goes to Fletcher Fire and Rescue, and then we have one parcel with Mills River Fire and Rescue,
Right.
where the former Continental site is. And we estimate, based on estimates from the county, and then when we actually bill, sometimes it winds up being billed more than the estimate. And so we got that audited by our auditing firm. And so there's an underpayment that we need to address as a budget amendment. And it's at just over $20,226. So I'll add that if that's okay. And if you have any questions about that or how that works.
Okay. Do we have any questions about that at all? All right, we'll look forward to that next week on the consent agenda. Thank you.
Excuse me.
Oh, no worries. As a selection of that at-large vacancy on the planning board. Again, there are candidates here. Next week we'll make the appointment. We'll do it by the ballot. Council will choose their preferred candidate. As long as there's no tie, I don't get a vote in this matter. That'll be that. So we'll go through, and when I call your name, if you want to just come to the podium, tell us a little bit about yourself, why you want to serve on the planning board, and anything else you might think you would like to know. And then we'll open up the floor for questions to council. Council will go on the order of the ballot applications in our agenda packet. So I believe the first person we have is Ms. Robin Mondid. So if you want to just come to the podium, talk a little bit about yourself and why you want to serve, and we'll open the floor for council.
Sounds good. So my name is Robin Mondid. I have lived in Fletcher for 16 years, 17 this year. And, I really wanted to serve on this committee specifically, but to start some level of community service. I've always had community service ingrained in me. My dad was a state employee of the state of North Carolina for his entire career. And so it's just been deeply ingrained in me. We have 5 kids, 4 of which are out of the house now, so I feel like I have, maybe an extra minute or 2 in every day, that allows me to do a little bit something more with the town and with my community. I have no complaints about the town, everything. I love living here. I love that I got to bring up my family, it's such a wonderful place. And I want other people to feel the same way, The reason I chose planning is because I've worked in the mortgage industry, and so work residential clients who are looking to obtain a home and hear everything that they have to say to me, over the last 30 years. And so I just felt like that my background, and my business acumen could maybe be a little bit more of use there than maybe in other areas. I figured it was a good starting point, for some public and community service. A little bit about me, other than, the fact that I've lived here for a very long time. So I'm married, have 5 kids, 4 of which are grown. Went to East Carolina University for my undergraduate and my MBA. I worked with First Citizens Bank, worked in the banking segment, for 30-some years now. Started as an intern in college and never left it, And after I went through a management trainee program, they asked me, what segment of the bank do you see yourself working in? And I said, well, there seems to be a lot of different things happening in the mortgage department, so let me go there. And I didn't realize that it was like, a crazy hall of mirrors, and then once you went in, you could never come back out, But it's been, a wonderful, very rewarding career where I got to see a lot of people, who felt like that homeownership or a sense of community or whatever was not going to be possible for them, and we've made it possible. And so I just want to have a chance to serve in a different way, and in a better way for our community. So,
Thank you.
questions?
Got a question from council?
What kind of, if you had to do some change, crystal ball, or just what kind of vision would you like to see here at Fletcher, like growth, or what kind of vision do you perceive?
From a vision standpoint, for me, anything that involves, a little bit more community, I think it would be wonderful if we had like areas where people could go to and sit down. I know we've got options for restaurants and things like that, but maybe a few more, to where people could sit down and have dinner with their family. And, as crazy as it sounds, there's many nights when I really didn't want to cook, when I got home at 6 or 6:30, that was really the last thing I wanted to do. And so it was kind of cool, even when like Beefs was just down the road, where you could go in and you could see, a lot of the same people that maybe even lived on the same street with, but, you didn't see them any other time. I just think that anything that gives the community that sense of community and the places where they see each other on a regular basis and things like that is kind of important, I know that we have to have industry and all that, and I'm not against that, because I know that that's what creates, a thriving community as well, but I think that, also having, like when I heard about the town center, I was really excited about that, because it seemed like there was maybe some opportunity, to have a few more things too, that regular people might want to go in and sit down and have a bite to eat, or, just see people in passing, whether it was a store or whatever, so.
And one last thing for me, if you had to pick one characteristic to explain yourself, what would be that one thing?
I'm always driving, I'm always, but I'm always pushing forward, there's hardly, I can't think of anything in my life, if there's ever a setback, if I'm sad for it for a moment, just have your moment, and then you got to keep pushing, you got to keep going on forward after that. So.
Thank you.
What have you enjoyed about living in the town of Fletcher?
I personally, I like how small in one sense that the community still feels, I know that we offer a lot and we're not really as small as we used to be. I grew up in Anderson County, so I understand, Fletcher used to be like, a one-life town, but it still feels small, in many ways. So I live out in the Hoopers Creek community, and it's kind of cool that we have a little coffee shop on the corner, a little bottle store next to it, those things, it still gives you that small town feel, but we're very close to a lot more to employment and things like that, you know, so it just feels like the best of all worlds. And it was a place I could take my kids to the park and feel safe about everything, you know.
Wait, go ahead, Jim. I was going to ask if you had any more questions, so go for it.
Just one other thing. When you drive down Hendersonville Road through Fletcher,
Yes.
if you could add one thing to that drive down Fletcher, what would you
Oh,
like to see?
Hendersonville Road?
Hendersonville Road.
I'd probably put another restaurant in there because I really don't like to cook that on
Okay.
Do we have any other questions? All right, Ms. Mondon, we thank you. Our next applicant is Mr. Stephen Crouch. I don't believe he's here this evening. We're gonna move on. And after Mr. Crouch is Mr. John Brandon Olson. You want to talk a little bit about yourself?
Introduce myself to this crowd.
I know. Everybody gets the same treatment. It's always equal.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, for the opportunity to speak. Mark and Christine. I'm Brandon Olson, I live at 33 Stony Brook Court. Here in the lovely town of Fletcher. I'm a proud Fletcher resident of almost 19 years this summer. Dedicated public servant. I live and breathe Fletcher pride. I moved here as a young adult and fell in love with the place. I moved several times since when I met my wife, and we moved into a condo and we stayed in town, went to Brickton Village. As our family grew, we had another child, moved back to Livingston Farms, and then we had another child, went through that house, and moved to a bigger house in Livingston Farms. So, needless to say, we're really happy. We're here to stay, and love the direction of the town, the way it's going, and hope to see it for the next many, many years. So, my academic background is in economics. My degree is from UNCA. When I came here, I was in this manufacturing field. I was planning out in Arden, Jigging Circuit. I used to call it Nitro. And it was great work. I loved getting my hands dirty and sweating and pushing big steel mold. I don't look like I'm cut out for it. The guys I work with are all your size drivers, but they're pretty talented with me. But I did okay. I held my own and had something to prove all the time. But when the children came, those nights and weekends got challenging, 12-hour days, sometimes 60 days in a row. So I went back to school. First at Blue Ridge, got my associate's degree at Blue Ridge, then went to UNC to get my economics degree. Following that, I went to, I was hired at the place I still work, so it was 2017. Started with a place called Innovative Solar Systems. We design and develop utility scale solar farm installations, so big 1,000-acre fields, power plant size developments. My department that I lead is it's called origination, but really it's just contracts. We do the financial aspects of development, setting up the business side for each property that we are working on, and making sure those financials work for each project, identify the problems ahead of time, and try and solve them in that work. But there's only really 3 departments. We have our land acquisition, which is separate, we have land development, engineering, and then my department does. So we're closely with my engineering and design team, help them problem solve. We've sat through many meetings together, and then I work closely with my land development team. I left you all a little paper with some contacts. I encourage you to reach out. But the one I hand wrote afterwards with my land development attorney, who I spoke with today. I'll share a little more about that in a minute, but he knows my familiarity with the field of work for land development. In that work, we do a lot of preparing as a company to go for town councils like you all, the planning boards, and the different places where we are to ask for zoning variances or if needed. In some places, they do kind of tax abatement agreements where we can limit our tax or make a payment up front and lower our taxes over time, those kind of things. I've spent many years, it's been 7 years with this company, and I've worked closely with things like that, and that's what originally got me interested Shortly after I started there, that was February of 17. It was either April or June of 17. A gentleman named John Ciarabella, who also lived in the farms. He moved away, stepped down on the planning board. That's the first time I applied. So that's coming up on 7 years ago. There were 2 applicants that time. The other applicant was Lucas Hardman, really strong candidate. You know. He ultimately was selected, and then he served for a while, and then the vacancy came up again. I think it was 2018. There were 3 applicants, and that was when Keith was appointed. I think I've applied 4, 5, 6 times since then. So this is probably the 8th time I've been up here talking about the planning board. So, needless to say, the interest is there. Board's seen lots of turnover. Keith knows. Given the opportunity, I'll stay there. We can stop the high turnover, and some of it's forced, some unforced, but we've lost a lot of institutional and experiential firepower on the planning board. It's, you know, we still do have George, my friend George here tonight. I mentioned that I'm a dedicated public servant. Spent the past several years serving in various capacities in town of Fletcher. I've been in regular attendance to town council meetings. I started with some frequency in 2017, and then started in 2019 or so. I attended about every meeting. Seeing what I saw as something that the town was lacking in 2021, I started recording, editing, and publishing all the meetings because we didn't have that in place downstairs. And that was a pretty involved process, labor of love. You know, I had to show up at every meeting, showed up with equipment, had everything set up, packed up at the end, brought it home, and spent another full length of the meeting going through or more, editing, getting all the splits and the sound right, and getting everything posted up so that the people of Fletcher had access to that. Trevor, I'll never stop saying thank you, and to everybody on board with Trevor for championing getting that equipment put in downstairs, and Christine for all your work. Getting those all published and pushing the buttons and all that. I know what it's like.
Thank you.
Thank you. In the spring of 2021, I was asked by the new Fletcher Library Partners. They had the person who was running their website and doing their IT work. He had moved away. They asked me to come on and take up with that. So I took over their IT and their website work. I was able to reduce their IT cost and website cost by 90%, and provide them with greater autonomy and control over their resources. A while after that, I was asked to formally join that board, but many of you know that they no longer exist. With the outcome of our most recent effort, they thought it was time to take a different direction. So we're no longer a formal board. Not with them anymore. In the summer of 22, about a year later, I was asked to join the Fletcher Youth Baseball and Softball League board. Similarly, they were the platform we used to provide that service to the community was changing. The website was taken over. I guess it was ESPN, but they got bought by NBC, and it was like a whole new platform. So they asked me to come on and help facilitate that transition. So we had a successful season last year. I took over the website, handled all the registrations and scheduling for all the games and communications for all the parents and players and coaches and umpires. We had 333 players, 30 teams, almost 100 coaches, and really had to shepherd through every single person for the background check process. And problems on the NBC side, problems on the way accounts got made and things like that. It was very involved, but we're set up for another season this year. This Brigman's not available, unfortunately, but I was asked to serve as treasurer this year, so I've been taking on a new scope, focused on budget, fundraising issues, working on that. It's coming along. We started practices yesterday. Just dropped my son off to his first practice on the way here, and we have games on April 6th. I invite everybody to take pictures coming through our first pitch.
Maybe.
April 6th.
Yeah.
I don't know if they asked you yet, but we hope everybody come out. It's be a good time. We're going to recognize our sponsors and our volunteers. Try to have as many games as we can. Maybe have the kids do pledge of allegiance or something. But our president, who had served on that board in the league for 17 years, stepped away. So we are really, it's like an all-new board. The most seasoned person, I think, has only been there for 4 seasons now. So we got a lot of plugging holes and figuring stuff out, getting bank accounts transferred over, websites figured out. It's been fun, but we'll launch the world pace for successful opening. I currently serve on the Fletcher ABC board. I was appointed in June, just this past June, about 9 months ago. It's been a great honor and joy. It's we're doing really good work. It's been a relatively short time, but we've had some pretty substantive issues that we've had to address. From the get-go, we knew our general manager was retiring December 31st, Tony Patterson. And if y'all could imagine what it's like to replace Mark, it's not as big an organization as the town of Fletcher, but it's about the most consequential thing we'll have to do is replacing our general manager. So we went through that process, and we hired a new general manager. His name is Bradley Sproles. He's been there about 4.5 months now, and on his own for the last 2. He's doing pretty well. Keeping an eye on him. We had some organizational changes as well. We hired a new assistant manager. The heir apparent also quit about the same time, and then we had added a lead person as well. I've been focused on formalizing the meeting process, right? Being on the Robert's rules and following get everybody, meet the minutes the way they are, meetings announced the way they need to be, and making sure we're covering the bases we need to cover, and it's being compliant with what we have to do. So we worked on that, supporting the manager, our new manager with initiatives. He's revamping the whole floor right now. He's got new shelves should be in the next couple of weeks. We're going to have 2 shelves. A whole nother rail later shelves to build about different in there. We're really excited about that. And then we were talking about opening the second location as well. And we were looking at that Burger King by I-26. But unfortunately, another offer came in before we could. Board decisions are slower than the private industry, so we can put up a backup offer, but I don't think it does us any good. It probably just helps the seller there. So anyway, that's a long way of saying dedicated public servant willing to walk in the community. I guess the question is, do I have time for the planning board in addition to what else I'm doing? I wouldn't be here if I didn't think I did. I've got the capacity. If anybody has any misgivings and wants to talk about it, I'd be willing to consider if I need to step down somewhere else. However, I'm not the only member of planning boards who have or currently serve on multiple boards of directors. On the planning board, I've been in regular and sustained attendance at the planning board, same as with council. I've been at every meeting, state review, since we got the video installed. It's been nice. Sometimes when I just have to make dinner, I don't have to tell them I gotta get to planning board. It's been recorded, but I have been to most over the past several years, recorded many of those and published them as well. I'm well familiar with the issues that we face and the process that we go through. I've got a good relationship with Eric. He's always been helpful and providing information. I understand the history of our town. Spent a lot of time with a lot of people, residents, and all from all walks. And people have been here a long time, a short time, and what everybody's interests are. And I think that gives me a good perspective on how to address or to represent the town's interests when different issues are considered in the planning board. I'm well familiar with different members of the board, and they're, as I said, in many meetings, and the brand new board, there's only three members of the board who've been to more meetings than I have. So my good friend George again, Dwayne, and Jim Tandy. So I mentioned the high turnover and our brain drain. On a slightly different note, most of you know, maybe this is news to Jim, District 1 is the largest district by population in land. But by population, by a lot, there's 2,800 or so residents. The next highest is right around 2,000, and then your district is fewer than 1,000. In the time I've been around, District 1 has only had one member on the planning board. We have our designated member. And then we have two or three at large on the planning board.
Or three others.
I think it's three. Anyway. But being the largest district, the most people, and the least represented on planning board for supplies, I think something we should consider. I don't know how far back it goes. I know it goes back to John Ciarella, so it's 8, maybe more years. But anyway, there's two applicants here from District 1, so maybe we get that large position this time around. And last, just on the questions, I would describe myself as hardworking, dependable, and a lifelong learner. George told this story at the last planning board meeting. I know I've heard him say it before, but he's been on planning board 30 years, and he's still learning, because everything that comes to the door is something unique or new, or it would already be addressed in our land development code. We've got a great code to talk about that too. But George is a smart guy, no matter how hard he tries to communicate with everybody online. But he still says he's learning. And that's the nature of entrepreneurship. The people who are coming to our business, people who see an opportunity and want to make it work, and for some reason it doesn't work by right, which will always happen. So I understand the process, and I would always work to, I'm pro-business. I want to see things happen, but I have a lot of respect for everybody who's willing to take the risk to come here and bring their business to the town of Fletcher. But that doesn't mean it fits with what we're trying to do. We want to have a walkable downtown. We want sidewalks or places where people can come and eat and shop and sit and enjoy the day with spend the day at the park, go get lunch, and go home and say, hey, I had a great time with my kids, my family here in Fletcher. And when we've got people coming here today and they want to put an auto collision repair shop right in the middle of our Fletcher, that doesn't make sense, right? And, those kind of things. I don't want to preview what's coming, but I was sitting there last meeting, just like, gosh, I can't see how anybody on the planning board is going to say, like, yeah, because you put up some black privacy lattice on a chain link fence, that's going to solve a junk car lot, or a banged car lot behind it. So, fortunately, it was the recommendations come in, and I won't read them. I have tremendous respect for the fellow board members and their ideas. I've seen deliberations, seen people, disagree, and I've been here for a long time. I've seen you all disagree. I learned, not just from my attendance, but through talking about Davey, about having respect for each other and being able to move on. If you disagree, you have the discussion, you move on. I've been sitting here sometimes and had a decision or a discussion that I witnessed and just been like, God, I've been frustrated and just stuck on it and missed what's going on. And then, maybe that's immaturity, and I do that better now, but there's that time, right? And that's important. If you're going to have a discussion, you've got to report business before you. The planning board tends to be one or two things, but if there's not, there's more. You got to be able to deal with what's there and move on to the next thing. And that's something I intend to bring. Yes, about a crystal ball for Fletcher. I think I kind of highlighted the heart of Fletcher. I want that. I want families to be able to come here and play pickleball, play basketball, go grab something at the auction house, maybe go sit at a green space nearby on a picnic table or something, and then go home and watch a movie with their family, and have those memories. Spend my day in Fletcher, and that's what I do here. I take my kids to the park. My boys practicing baseball right now, and they're enjoying growing up here, and I hope other people get to be a part of the facility. Again, it's tension on the greenways, right? I'd like to see, if I have my magic wand, we talked last month about the Meritor piece and, everything that goes into that. I understand, but I would like to see all our communities be walkable or bikeable, right? I'm way out in District 1, and, if you've ever driven out there, try and imagine trying to walk to Billboard Community Park from there. It's not It's not gonna happen. And we're close. I mean, we've got, the trail gets out to the train tracks. If we got with the industrial park and then Reinhardt Racing, they've already got that green space. If we had some kind of agreement where, we're stretching things out, we're getting closer. You know, there's communities out that way, and maybe find some things along the road that we need to make nicer and safer. But I'm aware that there's issues with emergencies and things like that. I do understand that these are challenges. I'd like to see this worked overcome and solved. Because I think 30 years from now, 30 years ago, there were people sitting where you are now, there wasn't a building or community park. And it didn't have to go that way. We could have said no to that, and then we wouldn't happen. So, thank you all for listening. I'm happy to, I've talked a lot of time, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
Got two. How many years have you lived in Fletcher? About 18 or something like that?
I moved here in the summer of 2005, so it'll be 19, and late summer, so it'll be August, coming up on 19.
And what we asked Rob, if there's one thing, your characteristics, what's one thing you would say that describes yourself as?
Oh, yeah, perfect. So like I said, was hardworking. I say tireless, but I know I work hard and I don't stop working. But I see myself all the time. You don't only get to see me here or hear about the thing they do. I rest for it, but no, I work really hard, constantly thinking about what needs to be done and find ways to do it.
Any other questions?
Same question, National Road,
Yeah.
what do you think is missing?
So, speaking on behalf of not myself, but the people who deal with the problem, is a right-hand turn lane on Vandenberg Road in Hendersonville. I think we talked before you there last year. We talked about some of the upgrades that were looked at and the traffic calming measures with perhaps roundabouts if they make it work. I think it was she was talking about it. They were talking about one, and she was like, what about just two work? That's an interesting idea. Not super close to roundabouts as some people are. And then one of the new developers mentioned the idea of like a green space in that kind of corner area where the gas station is. And depending on what comes, I think that seems like really cool. We'll see how auction house turns out and how the traffic and the people, the volumes. But if there were like a space where people could, grab something there or grab something somewhere else and come across and sit and have a little picnic next to those lights and bricks and, there's traffic, but it's, just ideas. Sure.
Do you think you can have it work well with the ABC board members?
Yeah. So they're both at the top of my list for that. It's been good. I wouldn't even offer if the request comes to step down. But if it does, the ABC board's in good hands. Lewis is still there. He carries a lot of experience and years on the board. And Samantha's tremendously qualified. But yeah, it's been a great joy working with them.
Have any other questions?
None.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Olson. All right, next we have Fran Schultz. Thank you for being here, Ms. Schultz. Share whatever you'd like to share. Tell us how you want to serve and a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, I've lived here 28 years, and in Fletcher itself. And I can tell you, when we first moved here to North Carolina, we were trying to find a town that was friendly for our children. And we ended up moving into South Chase, and we're still there. So it was a great place to raise our children. I've seen a lot of progress in the town of Fletcher. And what my interest greatly was is the new development that's going to be taking place, and I really wanted to have some influence here. I have a background in construction. I worked with, as you all remember, when Earth Fair was here, the original Earth Fair, I was in the construction department, and so I was very used to bids, dealing with, contractors, electricians, the whole gamut of when you're building a grocery store. And from there, when Earth Fair closed, I had left shortly before that, and then I was in another position where I was doing grocery stores, involved in shopping centers and helping the owners with their shopping center and construction and all that. So basically, I just would like to be involved in planning in that area, and I think I would be a good candidate. And that's basically it. I don't really have much more to say, except, I am in construction. I have plenty of knowledge and experience in that area. So, short and sweet.
We have questions from council?
Yeah, no, we just have questions you probably heard. Vision for Fletcher.
Vision for Fletcher.
Yeah.
So what I would like to see, Fletcher, is a couple different areas. I definitely want that new area that we're going to be doing. I want to make sure it has restaurants. I would like to see a brewery.
Which one is here, the heart of Fletcher or the one up here next
The one
to
up here.
across from Palm Cracker?
Right.
Okay.
And so I would like to see more businesses that would attract more people to come in. Myself and my friends, what do? When it's Friday and Saturday, we go out and we listen to music, so it'd be nice to see maybe a brewery that would have some nice music, some nice sitting area, a place for people to bring their dogs. All right, I know this sounds crazy, but it's always been one of my dreams, is I always wanted to get a caboose and have an ice cream shop and hamburger and hot dogs. And then when the kids were done playing their sports in Fletcher, I always visioned a caboose over this way, right on 25. So, I think that would be a really neat thing to see come into our town. Something that is kind of nostalgic looking, is something that people will come in from the outside area and say, hey, let's go to Fletcher. We don't have to go to Asheville. So I think just some good restaurants to attract people.
Any other questions? Any other questions?
I have one more. If there's one thing, all your characteristics out there, which one do you pick that describes you the best?
Just one characteristic?
Yeah, that you say this is me.
Hard
And all
worker.
list of characteristics.
Hard
Pick-
worker. But I will also add, I'm not afraid to be vocal.
Thank you.
Okay.
I think we got one more question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You're fine.
No, so the question driving down here, Shabelle Road, when you drive down through, now you talked about the caboose. Is there anything else that, when you drive down through there, you're like, man, I'd really like to see that, or this is missing?
A good Krispy Kreme. I don't like Dunkin' Donuts, I want a nice Krispy Kreme. And I'm sure the police would like it too.
I like it.
Exactly.
Fran, I've got one for you also.
Okay.
Are you like a project manager? Is that basically
Yes,
what I'm
I'm in
understanding?
sales and I act as a project manager.
Okay.
Yep, so I see projects from the beginning to the end.
I thought that's what you were describing.
Yes.
I just wanted to clarify.
Uh-huh. Yep. Yep. Is that it?
All right, do we have any other questions? Yep.
Thank you.
You're good. Okay, next we have Jacob Comfort. I hope I said the last name correctly. this evening.
Yeah, thank you guys all for the opportunity to be here and for potential opportunity to serve. Because it's going to be cliche, but that's the whole reason why I'm going to be a part of this board is public service. It's essentially my career now, and it's what I imagine doing for the foreseeable future, along with living in Fletcher. I might not have many years as most residents. I've been here for about 4 years, but I don't plan on going anywhere anytime soon. Love this town and love raising my daughter here as well too. My passion for public service really started beyond before going to school, but I graduated from that with my master's in public administration. So my MBA sort of opened the door to what I do now. I consider myself a community development specialist. I started as an intern with Henderson County, and I loved Henderson County down there as well too. It's great. It really got me to cut my teeth and got me a wide range of projects that I'm truly grateful for. And that's becoming an intern. I got hired on as a zoning enforcement officer. Then becoming a planner, and Preston, I remember we had a brief time working on the census together.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a real treat trying to do that in the pandemic too. But from there, became a lead code enforcement officer for Henderson County, and prompted me to pursue my goal of becoming a land use attorney. Actually, I ended up moving to Baltimore County briefly to pursue law school. The intention of coming back here, but long story short, that didn't work out with my family, and for good reason. When I came back, I ended up getting hired on as a planner for Buncombe County, and I've been there ever since. I'm still early in my career, but I love helping people transform a dream from a shed to even a 600-unit apartment complex. I love being the guy that can walk you through that red tape, being the guy to make the project happen. I present cases in front of the planning board, zoning board, then in front of the commissioners for Henderson County. I do it now for Buncombe County, and it's much as I know Eric, I know he's not here today, but I know he probably wants some help. The best way I think I can give back is by being on the other side and not taking cases to the board, but actually helping shape development for the town that I now call home. I'm still early in my career, but I'm a real estate broker, unmanned pilot's license for drones. Essentially, that's what you have to do when you're doing government work and doing these sort of larger scapes. And certified zoning officer, and also a certified floodplain manager. And the last accomplishment I'm working on now is my AICP, which is American Institute of Certified Planners, because that's truly what I love to do is to help shape communities. And it's, I hope it speaks volumes. Even if I don't get this position, it's something that I love still doing day to day. And it's just be nice to get back and have Fletcher enjoy some of my somewhat talent, I guess you could say, instead of having Buncombe County use it all. But thank you guys for having me here today and happy to take any questions. I guess I should probably know for two of them off the bat. One characteristic that describes me is probably a relentless optimist. Try to stay positive, probably to a fault sometimes. And one thing I like to see on Hendersonville Road, it's already there. It's a library, but that library, I think, it could use like such revamping, maybe larger space, maybe more of a community center as well too. But other than that, happy to take any other questions.
Any other questions?
Yeah, you said you was with the town for 4 years, you lived here in the town for 4 years?
Yes, sir. Yeah, been in town for 4 years. I started in Henderson County as an intern there in 2017, and then I got hired on summer of 2018. And I had that brief live in Baltimore County. It was basically like an internship up there. That's a different ballgame of development altogether, but got called right back down here.
And also, vision for Fletcher, same question that's here, let's kind of keep the same. What's your vision for Fletcher? You know, they said 25, I'm a little bigger.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's vision for the compliment. It's all about putting there. Vision for Fletcher is definitely having some sort of walkable community area, mixed use development. It doesn't have to be, anything off the wall. More restaurants would be great as well too. A little bit of variety there, but still need housing as well to balance out that need that's there. But on top of that, it's also just having jobs to pay for people to have housing. So I'd say like a mixed use of just what you have for a typical Main Street, because I think that's the problem. Like not the problem, like what you see with Fletcher is you have that Main Street of 25 Henderson. That's hard to do in most Main Streets. They're sort of walkable, kind of have an easier stroll to go through. There's a sort of bigger epicenter, something like a Main Street, somewhere off the beaten path there. I think that'd be great to have, next 30 years or so.
How long have we been at Buncombe County?
I've been in Buncombe County about a year and a half.
Did you say did I miss here that you have a JD?
No, I went to law school briefly. I was going to do my land use attorney. That's what I went through. That's what kind of prompted it. Because my undergrad was in, I did pre-law as my undergrad at that before. And I kind of got shifted to do the MBA instead, which I don't still kind of a nagging desire. And having tried that, I'm still really happy with what I do, because it's still talking to lawyers every day. You still get to engage with the law, it's local law, and you have a chance to kind of like actually make an impact at that level too. So it's great stuff.
Do you have any other questions? All right, thank you. Yes. Okay, that's Lori Bowl. I'll pronounce your last name correctly.
It's Bane.
Bang. Yeah.
Hi, everybody. So I'm Lori, and my first, I work with individuals with developmental disabilities, and I have for 40 years. I first started in Florida, working in the field with a nonprofit. I was promoted down there, so my first experience with construction was actually with that. I started up a small institution where I oversaw the construction through a certificate of occupancy with a small institution in Florida. So fast forward to Western North Carolina, I work for a large nonprofit. I started up a regional office here with 4 employees. We now cover 23 counties, have 100 staff. Started in construction on an office when Biltmore flooded from all the hurricanes. So oversaw the construction of an office in Biltmore Station. That's where currently the office is now. Also, I'm the person that you go to when you have a disability and you can't find housing. So I know a lot of the developers that do income-based housing. I've looked at plans for some of the developments in Buncombe County, trying to find just information for those developers, because to put people on lists, because it's so competitive that you have to get individuals on lists to just to be able to fill out applications. Because by the time you go to actually fill applications out, those lists to fill out applications can be thousands of people long. So I'm the person that you call if you can't find housing, if you can't pay your rent, all of those things. My company believes that we are the largest landlord in the country. My office has lots of departments and lots of things and grant things that we do, but we don't manage housing. I do know a little bit about HUD, just a tiny bit. It's a nasty little thing. Don't work with HUD. We're the landlord. We own about 300 group homes and apartments across North Carolina. We don't manage the services that are done with them. We just are the landlord for those properties, and a lot of them are here in Western North Carolina. A lot of the group homes that you may be familiar with, we probably own them, we don't manage them, so a lot of people don't associate us with them. Construction-wise, built a house in Fairview, did septic and road on property up in Madison County, just had new built here in Fletcher. I have not lived in Fletcher long, only since September.
Okay.
So I moved to Fletcher, and what I love about Fletcher is the small town feel and the convenience of it, and the fact that I can actually walk to downtown.
Do you mind, I mean, where?
In Fletcher, right behind the Fletcher's Ingalls. So that little section, I am like right on the town line and the county line, pretty much. I am very
Hillcrest?
far.
Off at Hillcrest?
Hmm?
Is it Hillcrest?
Yes.
Is that right? Hillcrest?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, yes, back there. I always call it the United Nations because it's very, very diverse. We went from a big house in Fairview down to a little 2-bedroom, 2-bath for retirement. And the reason that I'm interested in being on the committee is I've always had an interest in politics. It goes all the way back to college. I took a lot of political science classes, And my job hadn't really offered me the opportunity because I was answering phone calls, text messages, weekends, nights, and stuff like that. And things have changed, so I have a lot more opportunity to be able to do some volunteer work at night and on the weekends and stuff like that. So I was like, this is a good starting place.
Okay, do we have questions? Council, I know you're going to.
Yeah, usually have, but yeah, I'll ask that thing. Your big vision for Fletcher, if you had a big.
Well, I would like to see an emphasis on housing. I don't think people realize how important housing is to fixing a lot of the problems that we have in society, including mental health, substance abuse, and crime. Because, as housing gets to be more expensive, you can afford this, now you can only afford this, those people will push down a tier, the next set are pushed down to the next level, and so on, until you push people out. And then that increases the homeless population, which once you become homeless, it becomes very hard to treat individuals with mental health issues and substance abuse problems. So, and also with workforce, I've watched my staff, and even though a lot of the supervisors that I have, they have been pushed out to where they have to get housing down in Flat Rock or Old Fort, even though they're making like $43,000 a year, they still really cannot afford housing in this area. So really, I would like to see more of an emphasis. I think housing is really, really important, and of course, long-term growth is inevitable. It's just something that's going to occur. So planning and being able to control that growth and having a vision. I've read The Heart of Fletcher. I've read the administrative, practices of the planning and the board and all of that, and the different zones and all of that. So now I think it's a good plan for the future of Fletcher.
Last question is, as I asked everybody else, is if you had to pick one characteristic to describe yourself, what would it be?
Tenacious.
Tenacious.
I'll give you one example. So when they were building, when they were doing after the hurricanes, and they were doing our office, FEMA had not paid the general contractor. So all the subcontractors walked off. We had to be operational by January 3rd. This is mid-December. So, so I'm in a panic or whatever. I looked up on the internet. I got home phone numbers for the entire board of directors and the different people that were part of the landlord that were all across the country. I found them and I called them. They sent a $100,000 check to the general contractor and said, give Lori anything she wants. I will, if you wanted to talk to the governor tomorrow, I would die trying to make it happen. That's kind of who I am.
I'm curious about your background in income-based housing. Any lessons learned working in there, successes, any general thoughts?
On housing?
On income-based housing specifically.
I'm sorry.
Income-based housing.
Income-based housing. There's a couple different groups that do a lot of income-based housing, mountain housing opportunities, and then there's another group that does Jasper Apartments, one just down and one in Canton, and they're out of Raleigh, and I can't remember their names off the top of my head, but they're the ones that did Jasper. They did three different developments in town, but I can find out who they are. I just can't remember off the top of my head who they are. So they've got two in Swananoa, one in Canton. But Mountain Housing Opportunities does a lot of them. They're listed on their site also for them. And then I also was interviewed by the Department of Health and Human Services for their housing strategic planning for how services interact with housing for individuals with developmental disabilities, mental health, and substance abuse. So when they were putting their strategic plan, that was 2 or 3 years ago.
down to Hendersonville Road, as you drive down, is there anything you think specifically is missing from that Hendersonville Road corridor?
It doesn't quite have that hometown feel, I think, that you guys are looking for yet with the heart of Fletcher that you're striving for. I think that, you know, you have a vision, and I think that's important. But, you know, when, you know, people go to Weaverville because it has that feel, Brevard because that feel, you know, Fletcher is not yet a destination for that. Fletcher Park is incredible. Yeah, I spend a lot of time in Fletcher Park, but I don't think the downtown area has quite captured that where, hey, people want to come here because it's a destination, and that should be some sort of focus. Now, how to get to that place, you guys probably know better than I do at this point in time, or what you have in the works. I've read a couple of, you know, some of the minutes for the town council, but, you know, it's all some of the things that are in the works.
Thank you.
Do you have any other questions?
Well, you've mentioned you're new to Fletcher. How long have you been in Western North Carolina? Because you're
25 years.
Talk about the flood.
Yeah, 25 years.
25 years.
Yeah, I was in Fairview for 15 years. So we built a house out in Fairview. Matter of fact, we are trying to sell that house. I have 2 houses right now. We live in Fletcher. That house is sitting empty while it's trying to be sold because it's been sitting there. It's just 3 stories tall. The right person hasn't come. And then we bought land in Madison County. We thought about building there at one point in time and just decided to sell it. I put the road on, put the septic tank on it and everything like that. And that was a big work for a piece of land. It was crazy, but it was on the Ivy River.
All right, any other questions?
Oh, I did pull permits, was my general contractor had a condo in Florida also that flooded twice due to hurricanes. So one time, I pulled the permits, acted as my general contractor, hired, and then the second time, that was because the general contractor that the homeowners association they only got one bid, and the property manager picked the person out. It was a little shady. A year later, everybody else's condo was sitting empty. They had to release the permit, you know, but they did. My condo got done. Then the next time it flooded, talked the general contractor into using my contractor on the job. And they were using my contractor for several jobs.
Thank you. I think that brings us to the end of everybody. And I'll say, I don't think we've ever gone so long interviewing planning board candidates. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's indicative of a really strong candidate pool. So I appreciate all of you all applying. At one point, we were hard pressed to find candidates to fill some of these positions. And you all, I think any one of you all can do a good job. Are well deserved of this position. So, did you ask one more?
No, Keith was just getting a clarification of address.
Okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
what district they're in.
Gotcha. Like I said, I think all of you, everybody here is very well prepared. Thank you all for coming and introducing yourself. Please come back next week if you're able to. We'll make an appointment then. Thank you all for applying and having interest in our town. We're better because of you all. Awesome. All right, anything?
I just appreciate everybody coming tonight, telling us about yourself, put yourself out there.
Yeah, thank you for applying.
I'm absolutely blown away with the amount of, the quality of people that we're getting to apply for this position. It's, that to everybody here, it's really, that's impressive. You know, it's,
Anybody can do the job, I think. It's a very
Yeah.
strong candidate pool.
no, absolutely, thank y'all.
We thank y'all. Y'all are free to watch the rest of the council meeting, which are also free to leave if you so choose. If you want to leave, I think this might be a good time. So, but if not, you can have to leave whenever you want to. Let's just get another second. See y'all.
Since you're on that subject, I guess, 3 questions real quick. On our applications, is there any way we can add in there of years lived in the town of Fletcher? I know I ask that every time, but it'd be nice if it's already added to it.
Yeah, yeah, we can look at that.
Another one is Jesse that they're replacing. I know we had term limits, but how long is that term for?
4 years.
So his is 4 years.
Oh, I'm sorry, you said it.
How many hours, how many years is left on Jeff's term that we're replacing? Is it 1, 2, 3, 4?
I have to
don't-
look.
Yeah,
I think it's 2, but I may be
Yeah.
wrong. I have to look.
Yeah, because I like to know
It's been on a
that.
couple of years. so it might be
He's
around.
been on there for a while.
Yes.
Might be one more.
It might be just 1. I'd have to look at, I have a whole Excel sheet on my
Find
computer.
that out.
And Eric has it too.
So we can let them know when they get it. And also, last but not least, is there any way we can, I know some of these applications was a little older, I guess they just called and stuff like that, like back in 2022.
Well, I've been saving them because they didn't get on, they were still interested.
Refilling.
So, but you're looking for something more.
Within a year, yeah, like we hold them for a year, in this
Yeah.
case, if somebody comes off the board.
Because I thought
after
we,
that.
and 2022 is old, but I thought we originally agreed to hold on to them for 2 years.
Okay.
And then dispose of them.
I was going to ask y'all.
Yes.
What we could do along those lines, excuse me, is if we're holding them, and like Christine reached out to them to see if you want us to resubmit, we could send them their old application and they can
It
update
just
it.
goes,
and
2
send it
years is a
back.
long time,
Yeah,
because they can
I noticed
change jobs and.
on this Munnins,
Yeah.
the first thing was about a council vacancy in the plan.
Yeah,
So
They're,
it was a little
they're old.
dated.
It'd be nice
So,
if they,
yeah.
if they're really want that position, I think they'll come in and get a new application. I can understand maybe hold it for a year in case within that same year that somebody, a sickness or something unforeseen has to come off the board, but I think over that gets a little long.
After a year.
That's just my opinion.
Okay.
I don't know what the rest of the council would do, but that's just my.
I don't have a problem with that.
I think it's a good idea, just to keep them up to date.
You have any more? Move on. All right, moving on, item number 7, proposal for consulting services for retail strategy management.
Thank you, and just to echo, it's great to see this many applicants. I remember the years when we got one or nobody, or, kind of beating the bushes, and good feedback on things related to the town center, at least from town perspective.
Extremely strong candidate.
And to validate some of the things that we're trying to work on relative to that. So it's a good segue into this item. So I've been talking to y'all about reaching out to a company called Detail Strategies. We're kind of at a crossroads here a little bit with, we don't have a developer under contract. We've heard from some that are interested. We'll hear from others. We're not doing an RFP. But I wanted to talk to y'all about considering using some consulting services like a firm like this. And there are some others out there that do retail analysis, but it's a little bit more, they just give you a kind of a gap analysis of, okay, here's demand for types of retailers, restaurants, and maybe here's some suggestions for folks to go after, and then they kind of leave you on your own. A lot of communities aren't real adept at knowing how to mirror that. I mean, look how much it's been a challenge for us for years on this. So this firm met with, a representative of the firm met with Eric and I, Eric Roof and I on the 21st, and submitted this proposal. I was trying to get, the representative's name is Lacey Backus from the firm, I was trying to get her here. She could come to the agenda review, but only virtually, and that wasn't going to work well up here. It can in the council chambers because it syncs up with your microphones, but she couldn't come to the regular meeting. She's available for the April meeting. But I wanted to, I guess, share the proposal, let you all have an opportunity well in advance to digest this. I will say, Eric and I were impressed with their firm's approach in doing this, and that they do have a track record of success in North Carolina. They list the clients, you can see Shelby's in there, and Wake Forest, and Morganton, other communities across the state. I think they list about 8 to 10, roughly. And what they produced, what actually ultimately came.
And I have a question about them.
Sure.
When I was looking through it, I noticed there were generally national brands, and they're like
Yeah.
larger, big box brands.
Yeah.
That doesn't seem like the direction council.
You know,
we want to go.
yeah,
Any feedback about that?
I hadn't from anybody yet, and I'm a little concerned about that. I don't disagree with you on that. I will say, if we had one element of a big box that we liked in there that helps anchor some of the other things.
Sure,
What is
I
in
understand,
there
yeah.
could be very helpful, and to have this information. If you took two elements, or say there's two restaurants or a coffee shop or something that's national, like a Starbucks or that, I think that would be helpful. I did have a conversation with Ms. Backus, who did the conference call with us on this. I think we're interested with their firm talking to local developers, which they do as part of the consulting services.
Okay.
It doesn't mean they're going to come up with something that's all local developed, when I say local,
Yeah, sure.
companies in this area or region. It just may not be practical to do that, and then maybe you're not happy with what they present. I will say, they do a good, from everything I can see, we can check references, and I've talked to, I know, managers of these other communities, and they're happy with their work. But they do a more holistic and comprehensive approach. So they'll do that gap analysis, and they look at, mobile data, cell phone data to show where customers are. Our bigger area that's a market for shoppers, they put together that, here's what we think you can get, here's the gaps. Then they kind of marry that up with the realtors in the area and then to developers. And that was the one thing I was interested in. Did they have conversations trying to put us together with a developer that puts projects like this, or maybe two that partner up to do that? And they do, and that's part of the consulting services. And they come and get local stakeholder input when they put their plan together for us. So, and I'm not sitting here trying to oversell and say, this is the ticket to get us there in a year or two. It'll probably take a couple of years of work, but it's a reason. At least my first view of this, I thought it was a reasonable consultant fee for a year's worth of service, $45,000. I know it's a lot of money, but that's not bad. And they have a track record of success. So, if you would entertain her coming and giving a presentation, talk a little bit more of the history of the company and how they work with the clients who can articulate that, better than I could, or Eric and I, explaining it. But I think it's a good opportunity to consider to maybe get us to that next step. And you might ask, well, why didn't we do this earlier? I've talked to those firms, and kind of the local developers we've tried to work with, they've been more interested in driving that themselves. And I mentioned, how about maybe like a retail strategies or another, I can't think if there's one of the other ones that's a major one out there, that doesn't do the level of consulting kind of handholding. I think we need some of this, I'm sure. And they wanted to kind of, drive their own businesses. But, I gave an example, like a local, larger, it's a craft beer place that's a restaurant, it's a nice restaurant presence. It's not just a beer thing. That could be, an amenity And we've got some really successful ones in the area. Yeah, it's a little oversaturated, but some of the bigger ones are, I think, looking for other locations, yeah, they've been successful. So, and the food hall going across the street, I think is going to bring some of that inertia, that market coming in, that I think will help our project. But, so that's a little bit about their approach. I think I sent you all the email that kind of, where she kind of bulleted out those steps that I thought was a little more succinct, or a good summary there. So, and if you have questions now, or, you know, I don't know if we want to keep this on next week, if we can.
I think for me, looking, you know, I look at a lot of these are within a stone's throw of here already. So I would really love to know in this concept if they've had any luck doing more than mom and pop. Have they had success with that type of project versus some of this big box stuff?
Yeah.
Not, and again, I agree, it's not that maybe one or two wouldn't work in this,
Right.
but I'd just be curious to know what other success they've had, if they have had, or if they have done that with more community base.
Which I agree with Jim, also Chris, with the big box things. I mean, I think we're wanting to get a good hometown feel, having a Wendy's sitting out here, the hometown feel is kind of hanging out.
And I would not recommend the Wendy's. Wait, I'm sorry, Wendy's. I love Wendy's. I don't think it's a good fit, and
It's just another fast food restaurant
right here, or Chick-fil-A, but I don't, there might be, well, you know, when we had a contract with the Waddell's and Lewis Real Estate Group, you know, there was a possibility that one drive-through element was going to be one of those, so, you know, that.
And I think it has its place, but I don't
Yeah.
think we're looking for a mini airport road.
No,
down here
yeah,
that they have over there, so.
And I do think she should come out and talk to us more. I'd love to
I love to hear
bounce
what
these
she
things
says.
off, you know, see exactly what she said, you know, what the company's all about before we start spending $45,000 just to off a piece of paper and talk to her, you know, and like one of these things, if they want to try to do a partnership, it's to meet the partner.
Yeah.
Essentially, it'd be available in April.
April, yeah, so I'll come to the April agenda review.
Yeah, that'd be one.
Yeah, and I had some of the same
Yeah.
questions.
I
didn't get. I like the estimate.
Yeah, I like that idea. I said, I do understand that just as many other developers have asserted that we probably need some kind of anchor component, and then they're probably more than likely to be able to do that just from what I've been reading. I think it's like what you said, it kind of depends what that anchor is and if it fits well in Fletcher. I'm also curious, I'm trying to remember, is there any overlap? Yeah, I think this goes beyond it, but is there any overlap in the work that Rose Associates did to this? Or not really?
A little bit, if any, and I would share what Rose and Associates did on that. So for those who maybe weren't here when they did that, we hired them to kind of take a step back and say, are we on the right track here with what we're trying to articulate as a vision of the things we want to see in the town center project, Mark Fletcher. And so they spent some time working on that. They also did the RFP, they designed that we sent out. This gets much more specific to, and she was very familiar with retail, she worked with retail groups before, but this gets much more into, okay, we're going to articulate what our radius is for the market, we're going to do it's amazing, all the data, yeah. I'm sorry, folks, there's not much privacy out there with your cell phone, tracking and all of this stuff. So they'll know where we're shopping and they'll know what some of the gaps are for retail and restaurant. We know there's gaps for restaurant, for sure. They're a little bit more challenging, you know. getting one in, if you're not talking something big of a box. But it is fun, you know, we're gonna have the KO burger and the Latino or Mexican food and seafood restaurant all right across the street, yeah, sort of went the wrong way. But she'll be here in April. Yeah, I'm not asking y'all to take any action on this now, but I just wanted to give some more time while we had it for y'all to, and yet, you know, it's a good question, concerns about what we can get out of this and then try further, so.
I think that's good.
So what's your thoughts about keeping it on the agenda for next week? I mean, see how it's gonna be in April, I don't see y'all.
It doesn't necessarily need to be on the
No,
agenda next
yeah,
week.
I don't
Unless y'all want to talk
think so.
about it.
That's what I'm saying.
Unless Sheila wants some more feedback on it, she wasn't here tonight, that's another reason.
Well, I would leave it then for Sheila.
Okay.
I think, I can consider it, I can do mine.
Okay.
Always
And
appreciate
you
Sheila's
don't need
input.
that long additional discussion, but I'll try to run through it quick.
Yeah, that'll be fine.
Yeah, okay.
Anything else on that item? No. All right. Moving on to item number 8, the use of town-owned property for industrial purposes. Mr. Manager.
So, I had shared with you all that we got an inquiry from the Partnership for Economic Development. They are marketing part of the town's property on I call it the Meritor site, but our Meritor property across the Meritor plant. There's some buildable areas on there, and the partnership's been looking for industrial sites. We've been farming it for years, not much activity. We've talked about some recreational. So I talked to council several years back about, do we work with the partnership to, you know, list part of it as a potential industrial site. It's not much acreage, it's 6.76 acres, and we had it listed for, right, yeah, 570,000 and 6.76 acres. I got a copy in your packet of the map that shows the buildable area. So if you look on the front of the property, which would be the south of the property that fronts on Rockwell Road, there's an area about 5-point-some acres that is the, it's in the flood fringe, so you can build in it, but you have to elevate. So there's still some challenges there. And then we have a tiny little bit of it, if you look on the kind of to the right of that green hatched area, on that lower corner, there's a little bit that's completely out of the floodplain. And so that's a combination of those two areas. It's, you know, 1.65 acres there. The combination of those two is that 6.76 acres. So there's been very little activity on it because, you know, it's not an ideal site. It'd be a small manufacturer. So they had an inquiry from a smaller one. I don't know how serious it is, or if they really wanted to make an offer. I don't think they were quite there. But Brittany Brady, the president of the partnership, reached out and said, "Do you still want to sell?" We've had an inquiry, and is the price still good? And the appraisal, which got copied in the packet, is now a little bit dated. You know, it's up to 2.5 years old. It'll be 3 years in June. So if we wanted to keep listing it, I could reach back out to the appraisal firm that did it and just get an update from them. I wouldn't ask for another full-blown appraisal. They might have to update some comps on it. But the full price for the property was $1,110,000, but that's 91 acres. We valued it higher, that buildable area. So it's probably still a fair price, and maybe it's gone up a little bit. But I know in a conversation, I talked to Trevor on the phone just briefly about this. You know, do we update the appraisal, that kind of, if we want to continue to list it. My big caveat on this is there's been such little activity. still not an ideal site, and I guess it's bearing out because there has been very few that the partnerships received. Do we pull it off the listing? And it's the only other town acreage other than what we got around Town Hall or the town center property that we could move facilities to, because there's always that possibility one day we might, even with the right project down there, because Public Works and Parks and Rec Maintenance are in our town center area, that we might have to move them off or consider. We could try to build around, leave them. And this would be an area that some property, we would have to buy additional property. It would be a little costly some of the site development, but, so I'm throwing that out there. I know that maybe next week, if I could ask if you consider taking action, do we continue to move forward with listing it, or do we want to withdraw it? So, I mean, my suggestion is to consider withdrawing it, just because it's been such a little, and it gives us still hold on some town property, and we can move some facilities, so.
There looks like is a creek that runs right through the 1.6.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, got it there.
So how can you, I mean, it says, but there, that's got the big 5.1 lead, but there's 1.65, looks like there's a creek runs right through the middle.
Yeah,
And that
well,
could be built.
well, on the bigger part of the property, yes. So if you go cutting across it, not down in the green hashed areas that are the buildable, up north of it, they reconstructed a stream. They did a stream restoration. It was under the ecosystem enhancement program. Yeah, yes, where Jim's running his pen right there. It kind of bisects it up there, or cuts across the middle of it there. We had to do, and that hatched area around it is the existing conservation easement. So we can't do anything within that, or very, very little within that conservation easement area. And we did that. The town didn't get a lot out of it other than doing a good thing, so that's okay. The state got mitigation credit for impacting wetlands by us redoing the stream. It was basically a drainage ditch that farmers created, which they do when they're irrigating property, and they've turned it back into a stream that feeds back into the King Creek. So, I'm sorry, it's a long-winded explanation what that is.
So the blue line is a little stream right there on that 1.65.
There's
Right here.
Yeah, there's no stream, and there shouldn't be any water moving through that or stream.
I just think that blue line looks
We do have some wetlands to deal with that are right to the north of it. You see that 9 acres of existing wetlands. So, well, that's,
Let's see what that is. You see what I'm saying about the little blue
Yeah.
line runs right there?
yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I
I'm not
guess.
sure what that is.
That's why I wondered if that was, yeah.
It's a blue line.
It runs right through the
Yeah.
green.
Oh, north on there.
1.65.
I'd have to go look at the I know it's not part of our wetlands that we're delineating.
And we'll say that's a little stream that runs right through that 1.65.
It's about where those two field areas are, aren't they? From the
Yeah.
interstate field.
I'd have to double check on why that's shown across there. But I mean, if we've been told we can build in those areas. Now you have to elevate in that section, because that's still flood fringe, and you have to build 3 feet above base flood elevation. That's what
So
our
elevate 3 feet.
3 feet above base flood elevation. So you have to shoot the elevation points, and the base flood elevation point, your lowest finished floor has to be 3 feet above that. Yeah, that's what our flood ordinance says. The county has something a little different. Oh, hey, it's still going to be expensive to build on, the flood fringe area, maybe even the one that's completely it's not the best piece of property.
That's some of the areas in Mills River, surgical center and all that.
Well, that's how I look at the proposal. I'm not sure what everybody else's thoughts are.
I mean, if it was a real, high-use, valuable industrial site, then, well, it'd probably be sold by now, or they would have had a client on it.
It'd be nice just to have land that we could build on.
Well, we need to touch our maintenance.
Yeah, I mean,
It's going to be convenient to us.
Yes, for the place.
Or we have to buy other property somewhere, and that's part of our relocation cost.
Well, it's not like we're all on the same page there, but, I guess we can talk about it next week when she was here as well.
Yeah, and if you could consider taking action at that time, then that might be helpful.
Okay. Do we have anything else on the item? I'll look for all. Right. We'll move on to item number 9 then, unassigned fund balance, excess reserves recommendation.
Yep. Well, Heather's going to cover this next week at the regular meeting, but just to give you a little bit of background on what we're dealing with here. So last year we were above our fund balance range, and we're above it again this year, which is, it's not a bad thing. The more challenging thing would be if we were below it. So we have a fund balance policy, and the fund balance policy says that we're to keep between 45 to 65% as a percentage of our general fund expenditures as reserves. So unassigned reserves that can be spent for any qualified public purpose. And we've done a really good job building up our reserves. We've been largely within that 45 to 65, but this past year, our audit ending June 30, we were at 75%. So in order to bring it back down into and our fund balance policy says if we go above it, we're supposed to come back and talk to y'all about suggested ways, to bring that down. And it's like one-time, non-reoccurring expenses. And probably the ones that make the most sense, and it's some of the examples in our fund balance policies that apply to existing debt. Because obviously, you cut out interest, you pay off faster, it makes, you free up debt service space. So what Heather worked on, and I'm comfortable recommending, and she'll talk a little bit more about it, is 2 of our loans. We have 3 loans right now on the town hall project, which was, for those who don't know, it was construction at town hall. We bought 21 acres of land to the north here, and we reconstructed Old Game Green Road. That was all part of the project. And we had 3 loans, a $3 million loan with SunTrust, and then a $5 million loan with USDA, the community facilities loan, and then a $1.5 million community facilities loan with USDA. So what we were suggesting is going after our highest interest. If you took that $850,000 and applied $371,000 towards our outstanding balance on that $3 million Truist now, it pays that off, and it saves $10,000 of interest. We've got payments on that through FY 24-25, which is the coming fiscal year, and then in 25-26. And then the balance of that $850,000, which would be $479,000, applying that to our one of our highest interest USDA loan, the $5 million one, and that would save us $640,000 and shorten our payments by 50 months for 4 years and 2 months period. So
You don't know what the Little SunTrust, what our interest, what our
Yeah.
rate is on that deal.
Not off the top of my head, I think it was like,
So it's obviously
3
lower than
points.
the 4.125?
yes, it was
Because you said
3.
that's the highest one we got was the
Yeah.
$5 million one.
Yes, yeah, it's like 3.71, I want to say, I can have Heather tell the exact amount, yeah, we didn't have that.
So by doing both of these payoffs right here, you'll save the interest, the town will save the interest 650, you're saying, 1,000 plus that 640.
Yes,
Interest.
correct, that's correct.
Number two, paying it off.
Knocking it down the interest,
Yeah.
still 650 savings.
Am I ready for it, bro? Well, no space on the debt side of our CIP,
Yeah, I'm sorry.
like, well, no space on the debt
Yes.
side.
Yeah, so, in our capital improvement plan, right now, it used to be 6.5 cents, we're doing 6 cents towards debt service and, let's see, that's right, 5 cents towards debt service, and 2 cents on, cash projects. So what that 5 cents produces is what we have as debt service available, what the levy produces, and so it'll free up space on that amount of revenue, yeah, that we've, and we've had enough debt service space on that side that we've been able to move it and help pay cash for some of the other CIP projects. But this frees up more space. I mean, you know, we could get to the point in a good public-private partnership where we sell the land, but we might have a public-private partnership where we're putting, you know, a fair amount like in infrastructure improvements. And
So that's
because
basically,
maybe we borrow that rather than put it into cash. You know, and so it just gives some other flexibility. Sure. But
I think it makes sense to do. You know, and have it be here next week.
yeah, and sorry, I explained so much, and maybe she was.
Yeah, it sounds like everybody's pretty comfortable.
But we'll have, she will be back too, she might have some, so we'll have her be here to talk a little bit more about it. But she did a really good job, digging in here, and she's got some software that, on the amortization schedules of the loans that
So that we
kicks
be able
out.
to take monies that we're applying towards this and add additional to what's left on this to increase those payments.
Yeah.
Pay down faster.
Yeah, yes, they'll pay down that big USDA loan by that 4 years and some
Yeah.
months, and that first one, it pays it off completely. We've already to the point on that $3 million loan that we're just down to that
Down to
amount,
that.
yeah, so,
Okay.
yeah.
We talked about this a little bit, but the reason, keep on going so far beyond the policy in general, because of the increased sales tax revenue.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah. I'm sorry, what on sales tax?
That's the reason we keep on going so far above our fund balance policy.
That has helped tremendously, yeah. Our
Just to be clear about that.
we try not to go too conservative on it, but we go with, the league gives us advice on projections, and then we look what we've actually collected and what their projected growth, and we usually go with the most conservative model, because, you know, we prefer to be under the revenues coming higher than just barely hitting. That's our work going. Because remember, sales tax is our second largest source of revenue, so it's a big part of our budget, not just, a lot of people think property taxes is our whole budget or 90%. And it's about, hovers around 50% of property taxes at
So do we have any other questions or comments on the item?
And I'll find out the interest rate, and I'll keep that question on there.
Well, we thank
Good
you.
question.
We thank you, and I'm sure we'll take that in next week, but
Yeah.
thank you ahead of time too.
We'll do.
All right, moving on to our next item, discussion of the partnership for additional tennis facilities. Mr. Manager.
Okay, so Mayor Sheila Franklin and Buster Brown, who's an interested party to potentially contribute towards this, kind of a local benefactor on this potentially. And myself, we all met on February 21st to kind of discuss a little bit more, you know, what was the vision for this project, kind of where, costs, and so forth, so we can kind of report back to y'all. Is this something we want to continue to pursue or not? And, you know, at least what he was looking for, and, you know, quite frankly, if you build more tennis courts, you probably should do at least 4 to 6. 4 would be like a quad, like you typically would see on a tennis court. But that was the size, the cost to do, you know, 4 tennis courts, and his estimates are, I think were decent on here, but about $300,000. That does not include permitting and improvements for expanding the stormwater facilities. Because we would have to expand our, if we built it right next to the existing court complex there that we just finished this last year, we'd have to expand the permit, which would mean some other stormwater improvements because of the amount of impervious space it would add. We've got like a little over 10,000 square feet we can work with. So it's going to be over 300,000. That's a long explanation to say that.
But now we have an extra room for another 1 court, don't we?
Yeah.
Or that pickleball, but not
Yeah.
a quad, not a 3 more, whatever.
Correct. Yeah, we're short by about 12 to
Yeah, quite a
15,000
bit.
square feet. Yeah,
Yeah.
when you compute the square footage needed for, and he gave me dimensions for a quad, how much that would be.
I remember we ought to expand that area that we needed for some expansion, but not that type of expansion.
Yeah, that's right. So, that was one thing we talked about. And then, also, if it was built at the park in that area, we'd probably need to look at beefing up our auxiliary parking. And right now, there's no plans to extend paved areas, but we probably either need to expand the paved area or improve that auxiliary. And the auxiliary park I'm talking about is the grass area in the back. We probably need to do something to beef up, making that usable, because when it rains and it gets mucky out there, it's bad because it's low lying. So I don't know if you pavers or blacktopping it, and that's more impervious surface too when you're adding. So that's another cost impact if you did that there that we haven't quantified yet. His vision was to Parks and Rec take the lead on the programming for it, with a lot of involvement with youth, with tennis as a sport. An alternative location came up of building it out at Southern Tee, so the former Southern Tee. So Charlie Ball owns the property where Southern Tee Par 3 golf course was, and he's working on it as like a event, and he's got a lot of different ideas and vision for that property. And I did contact him about it, and he was a little hesitant because right now they're trying to flush out some programming and hire an event or property manager to work on that. He said maybe not right now. You'd also have to have a location here to build the facility if it's open and the public has access to the property, you know, a good number of hours. So I'm not sure how that would be managed. So anyway, I threw that out there to him. And then the last thing I wanted to mention, Mr. Brown had also talked about contributing towards the cost as a partnership with the town. Originally, he was talking 50% of the cost, and at our meeting, he said 25 to 50,000 as a range. So it's a lot less from, you know, a private contribution, but still generous. So I mean, these are things we need to think about if you want us to continue to pursue this and it be a part of potentially this budget cycle we're working on. Is that-
What does Greg think about our demand for the tennis courts now? Because I know it's high for the pickleball.
It's not super high.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, and you know, we don't pretend to know all the tennis folks out there and the demand. I will say this, we don't get a lot of calls or requests for additional tennis facilities. We didn't have any, and I know it was an initiative, we wanted to add it, and, you know, we did that, and I know it was much more constrained because pickleball was, we get lots for pickleball.
Yeah.
That's been going on for years now. Tennis, not as much. And yeah, I mean, I can get asked that question, and that's a big question. And now, we haven't, well, we did the big survey a couple of years ago with the National Citizen Survey with Popo, and I don't recall that being that Greenways was the big one.
The big one, yeah.
Was Greenway expansion. So,
I will say, I'm much less excited about this project because he initially said 50%, and then he went back to 25 to 50,000, which is nowhere near 50%. So I'm much less excited. I mean, if council wants to get on board with it, that's fine, but to be honest, I'm not sure if it's worth our time if the demand's not necessarily there, and we're not getting 50% of that cost, like you initially said. I mean, that was my main motivation after hearing that 50% is that's a shooting star.
It might bring in more outside people to use the courts for whatever type of tournament he's talking about or whatever, but I think the Fletcher residents, I think that the pickleball at this point is a much more higher demand for the space that we actually still have, that
It's
in my
space,
opinion.
yeah.
And that's what we kind
I
of
don't
planned on when
disagree
we
with
got it. We said, well, let's see how they use the basketball and the tennis and but is it, you know, I wouldn't be moving forward with the tennis personally.
And obviously the cost versus demand side.
And maybe, I'm sorry,
No, you started with.
I'll say maybe it might be worthwhile to see some of the data about how the courts are being used, because it really hasn't been that long. So it might be
Yeah.
worthwhile to see that too.
yeah,
But
I,
as it stands, I mean, I just don't see a reason to do that, especially if he's not doing 50% of the cost, like you said.
I think we get some rentals of the tennis court, but it's overwhelmingly, it's been pickleball that's been.
Yeah.
I might pick up in the spring or summer. I
Yeah,
don't know.
I-
but-
I'd like to see this.
So the basketball might pick up, it may be more demand for the court, just depending on what we got.
Which I can echo what sounds like the rest of the report here. You're starting out facilities right there is 300,000. You got to add to your auxiliary parking, that's increased, that could be another 100,000. Your stormwater surface areas, that could be another. This could be a $500,000 project. The only thing they're getting, I hate to say that the 50% was very enticing, but it went down to 25 and 50,000. That's a lot of money for a low demand in public. So that's kind of like Jim was saying, the cost versus benefits not really there. So I can see myself out there moving forward with this. It's costly.
But thank y'all for meeting, Mr.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, it was a good conversation, and, you know, talk about interest and what would be needed and what's going on to promote the sport. And it is a great sport for people to play because, you know, kids can play it on up to however old you think you can do it. You can run around out there. There's, you know, people up there in years that are still play tennis.
I did talk to residents, and they said that the pickleball play is very demanding. It seems like there's a line, so they can never hardly get in. So it must be a lot of people who play this pickleball.
It is.
Big demand.
Have you ever played it?
Played it on our cruise boat had it. I played it with my son. I still know the rules. I just hit it back. I don't know what the rules is.
Did you, was it fun? Did you like it?
I wouldn't particularly me. Ping pong table was taken, so we were.
I'll defend it. Well, I went out dark horses. It's fun, just like big ping pong. I mean, it's easy to play. Anybody can play. I understand.
I played it in high school, so it was like forever ago. They made us do it PE, and we loved it. Like, we took it so seriously. It was like real competitive. And, anyways,
I've never
it's
heard of it
really
until I
really
found
good.
it.
Yeah.
Same here, I never even heard of it.
It's really taken off.
All right.
All right, do we have anything more on that item?
You
What do you want
want
to
to
do?
that on for next week, you want to shut off?
I say take it off, because some of the majority of the council want to take it off.
Okay,
Okay,
all
all
right.
right, we'll do that.
All right, moving on to your town manager's report.
Okay, thank you. So I know last month you heard from Rebecca Robinson from Conserving Carolina, who's working on a potential grant program for extension of our greenway. The grant is due in May, and it's our understanding it's still, you can apply up to a $500,000 project, $250,000 local match, $250,000 grant money. And she was planning to come back, or Eric and I asked her to come back in April to talk to y'all, because if we want to consider this, we'll need, and we should get some type of council approval that you're comfortable with it, should we get awarded it, and we'll have to, consider appropriating money for the match. I'm also going to follow up, I know there's some questions, Jim had some questions about operating cost impact. So I didn't have all the information together for the March meeting, but for April, I'll have that as a part of the information to present to you, in addition to what Rebecca will have to share. And it's a soft trail, and we'd have to have McGill updated their estimate for how much trail could be built within that, roughly that budget. It'll be more trail, because theirs was hay trail, hard trail, yeah. One other interesting thing on that is she shared with us today that apparently there's $13 million in funding that is going to be, it's for stream restoration work. And she's hearing that it's from the money the county received, that they're supposed to be looking at Cane Creek and kind of our area coming through this park and going on to the town's property by Meritor, and basically doing a big stream, which you can get a lot of area done for $14 million. Let's just say all that goes there, or a large portion of it. So that can impact how we're doing this, the Greenway extension, because it does impact the banks a little bit along the road, it does. So that's kind of an interesting update, so we'll have to see how that would be coordinated, because, yeah, it could move that. So we're trying to get clarification how long you have, how much time you get to spend the grant money if we were to get awarded, let's just say 500,000, so the 250 match. How much time do we have to do that? And if they're doing the stream restoration, how does that sync up? So, anyways, we're working on that, and Rebecca would come back at the April meeting and present something, and then I'll have some more information on potential operating impact.
Quick question, I know that in that drawing, I wasn't there at that one, but it says that, or shows that you can walk from the park, get the sidewalk up, go the sidewalk all the way down. The sidewalk stops right there at the bridge, there's a guardrail runs another 100 feet. How would that guardrail, would we have to move the guardrail, or would it extend the sidewalk to go down? Because there's no turn right there. You have to walk on down to the 100 foot and try to go where the guardrail's going.
Yeah, we were suggesting this,
A break or something, maybe.
part of the improvements was extending the sidewalk down.
The guardrail.
Well, you can there's two things. One of them is to go underneath, come around on the sidewalk, then you have to deal with the guardrail. And I don't know if there is a way to move that or not.
Right now, Jim said there's a break in it,
Yeah.
the antique situation, but guardrail has.
Yeah, and that is an issue to deal with. But then once you get to where the sidewalk ends, is building an improvement that's part of the trail that comes off of there.
We still have to worry that, we still have to deal with the guardrail still up there.
Well, I mean, I think there's a way to come around the side of the guardrail now, but I have to.
Because right now, if you go where the bridge, where the sidewalk stops, it's right there at the bridge, and the guardrail's attached to the bridge, bolted. And then it's another probably 80 feet, the guardrail goes down 25, and there's no way of, you don't want people walking over a guardrail to get down to your sidewalk. The guardrail's kind of
Yeah,
in the back spot.
I have to look right at that. I think they were thinking extending the sidewalk further south. Yeah, and then coming around it, around the,
Still go ways, and then have to come back down, I guess to the river, the parking bridge right there, the Charlie, go that far down to his property.
The other thing, and this is the more costly option, is you don't come up and around like that. You stay under the bridge and on the side of the property that's, I think it's a little bit of the, not here, it's the west side of the property, build a bridge that comes back onto Charlie's property and then that
Cost will have like
Oh, yeah, I mean,
I'm just trying to think of a way for the residents, if they're walking the Billboard Park, they want to walk this other trail, it'd be nice to have a pathway.
There's a way to do that for like someone leaving South Chase.
In the same way, the person right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just put that.
I know my folks are kind of excited about that.
So I guess to figure out that guardrail situation, you probably,
Yeah.
if you go down 25, just kind of look to your right, and see the guardrail talking about, it's kind of.
Just past the bridge.
Yeah.
So, unless there's any other questions on that, I was trying to set up a meeting with our state legislative delegation and having a little bit of a hard time getting time set up with Senator Moffett. Apparently he's been real busy for the next several weeks here. I'm trying to extend it out and past that time. I haven't had a response yet from his administrative assistant. So I've also reached out to Representative Balkin's office. And if we do just a meeting with her on our legislative priorities and then those two projects, the Greenway and potential sewer over in that neighborhood. Excuse me. So I've been trying to follow up with them and again, I'm having a little bit of a difficult time getting that set up. And then we're also, on our federal delegation side, we still have to get up with Senator Budd's office and our U.S. Chuck Edwards' office. So,
When do they, do you know when they go back to session, the General Assembly?
it's in April. And that's why I'm trying to get this done before they go into session.
So I'll say, let's at least get out.
Yeah, and the administrative assistant I talked to, Representative Balk, was going to get back this week. I talked to her Friday. I said, look, can you guys at least get together? And I don't want to keep pestering them for, we need an hour of their time. And it's important that we get together and talk about this. So that's in play. I know we talked about the auction house food hall, but it's going to open at the end of,
Parking lot looks good.
yeah, the end of this month, so the end of March is kind of their soft date. I mean, it could get extended a little bit, but they're getting darn close. Apparently the inside of the building looks really nice. The developer, Magnolia Properties, Zach Brogan, what communicated with, said it looks really neat in there. I like the sign out there. I don't think of that, but that's going to be a big deal.
Yeah, I think so.
And I think that'll help with our development here, so town center. So I just mentioned that there's going to be a lot of buzz in the public about that. There was something in the local newspaper about that.
Yeah, it's Thomas recently. I'm gonna say the Citizen Times, I read that article, they said late April, early May now, so I'm not sure if it's
Okay.
changed, but
Good. And so that's going to be a big deal. Last thing I wanted to mention, just, we're a little bit out on this still, but we're going to do our spring public shredding event and hill drop with the police department. So come, with your documents to be shredded for free, and we'll set up in the south parking lot on April the 20th from 9 to noon.
And Public Works is gonna do a mulch thing that day.
Okay, yeah.
That's all free mulch.
I know last time we talked about advertising that together.
Yeah.
We're gonna be sure to do that.
Yes, and they're also doing mulch the 9th, what is that,
Yeah.
this Saturday?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, they're doing one March, April, and they just did one in February.
Yeah.
So, and then, it's nice if you need some mulch, I know this isn't like high-end Lowe's, $5 a bag stuff, but it's mulch, free mulch. They will load it into your vehicle or trailer, so they have equipment to do it, so.
Is it still over here where somebody just pull up there if they don't want
Yeah.
it? They can just take a bucket and get it anytime
As
they
much
want
as
to?
they want.
Anytime they want to, is it
Yeah,
loaded?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not shut off, so.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's going on, and then the police department, while we've got the shredding thing going on, they'll have their medication turned in, the pill drop part of it too. So there's a lot more opportunities for that, but it's still a nice little event to do that for unused medications. We've got a box in the police department lobby, and I'm seeing more of those from CVS. Was it CVS or something? Yeah, yeah.
Is April
And Sheriff's
20th,
Department, I know does that, yeah.
is April 20th a certain pill drop day? I know like it is like around, because I know that Skylar doing the same thing on April 20th.
Oh, I
We
don't
just
think-
picked that date
yeah.
because I was trying to coordinate with the shred people to
I
get
got
here.
you.
We were looking at dates that was gonna work with the police department
Yeah.
and then us at the same time. So
So-
it was just coincidence, basically.
Because South Ashby, they're doing one also for the DEA's doing the
Oh,
pill drop
really?
there,
Okay.
same day. That's why it's kind of, is it a set date?
I don't think it did, I think it was done up.
April
It
27th.
Was,
It is the national day.
Yeah, April 27th is the
Okay, well, see, I didn't know that.
Maybe
I
that's
just, we
why
were
the
just
police-
fiddling around
Yeah,
with
maybe
dates,
that's why
trying
the
to find the
police
right date to
suggested.
work with everybody to get
Yeah,
the event going.
Okay.
The more the better.
I was just curious.
yeah,
The dates matched up.
and that's all I had under manager comments.
I have a question before we adjourn. So we're gonna have a report next month on the pay and class study.
Oh, yeah, so that'll be in April, and so we've got the initial results, and we're working on a couple options to present to you.
Okay, and what does that mean exactly? A couple of options to present to us.
What they will be, dollar-wise impact, and how it impacts all the employees, and then what the total dollar amount is as it impacts our budget.
Okay.
So we'll go into, the consultant will be here to go over those and give, it'll be a little high-level view, but if you want to get into as much detail, we'll do as much or select as least as you want. But he came out with like 5, and we're trying to get it down to 2 that we think, and maybe 1 is a good one. And again, the goal is to move people up, keep us in the market, and help employees move within our pay grade system to stay competitive, to keep folks in track, particularly police and public works.
Yeah.
For the attraction, our others, we don't have as much turnover
Okay.
or vacancies.
And I think I saw that there's maybe one more meeting scheduled for staff and the consultant.
I don't know if there's one more left.
Uh,
Maybe after the results of what's selected. I think this last one's just with, I can check with Heather on that.
Yeah. I was just wondering, I might, if it's okay, I might be interested in just talking with them and
Sure.
understanding the process a
Yeah,
little bit better.
he's gonna give a presentation and talk about it, if you wanna do that in advance.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would like to do that. I'm really
Okay.
curious about this. We've done, it seems, a couple of paying class studies over the years. I know we did, I guess one that was just a step below, but two years ago, last year, I can't remember. So I'm really curious about how this is working, and just as some of his feedback, and some, probably some more detailed questions that maybe we don't need to go over here with the council.
Yeah, and you can, we can, and if you have some questions, we can set up a conference call with them, if that helps, or if he's coming by and meet and talk.
Yeah, so I really want to make sure that it's really beneficial for all the staff,
Yeah.
because pays, I mean, that's the bottom line for everybody, and everybody has to pay the bill, so I want to make sure I understand the process really well.
Yeah, without getting into the two top options in there that we want to try to talk to you about. They both try, the positions that are compared within the market to get it up to that entry level, to get ours synced up with the average at the entry level, and then also move people to the midpoint. There's a couple of the things, maybe one, how long you've been here and that kind of thing, but.
Well, yeah, I'd love to sit down with you all and if anybody else wants to.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
And it's, Heather and I were impressed with the amount of analysis and detail.
Yes.
And this was, in our opinion, the best one we've seen in our entire time working here. I think this gentleman did a really good job, and they do a lot of work. They work for such a while, getting the name of the top. But they do, it's consulting services they do for local governments with this.
Okay, well, yeah, I'd love to sit down with them and kind of hear about the process.
Okay.
Understand it better, and if the council wants to as well, or somebody else to join me, I'm more than welcome to do that.
When did Lynn let you know what they would be?
That would coordinate that, yeah.
I have to get up with them and plan this time.
How's it going with the property down here?
Which property?
The ones that the ladies came and spoke to us about at the last meeting.
Oh, at the Wood Hill and.
I know you sent an update, we were in that process, so I was just
Right.
wondering if you all
I haven't seen if, yeah, I know we're, so we're talking Wood Hill and 25, so the entrance in the south case. The owner has someone locally who is supposed to be putting signage up about no trespassing. Our police department, they've notified them to basically, if they see, it's mostly been trucks parking down there, to let them know that they've been told by the property owner to, have to leave for trespassing, so that has gone out. And I don't have an update. The other thing was about, clearing the site, which we'd all love to see sooner than later. They had indicated they hoped in March. I don't know if that's imminent this month, but they're gonna level the buildings and remove underground storage tank, and he thought they were getting closer to that happening. Hopefully this month, I don't know about that. I think the bigger step, when we get some of the trespassing, get that, but the other thing is that.
They're having signage, right? I remember that correctly.
Yes, that's right.
Good.
And then we also have a budget meeting this month, correct?
Yes, we got that coming up. Thanks for asking about that. Yeah, I should say something next week, definitely about that. Yeah, that'll be for the full budget requests.
And we're going to meet before.
No, that's in May. We're
Yeah,
going to
okay.
have breakfast here
Yeah.
with biscuits and fruits and everything, and order some nice catering for lunch.
Okay.
And
Thank you for
so
doing that.
either 8:30 or 9, we'll get a reminder out on that.
Thank you.
All right, any more business from council? All right, good meeting. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
We have a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay.
Pointed at him.
All right, all those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed,